God's promise to Abraham, stars in the sky. The journey of Abram was long, and though he followed God faithfully, there were moments he began to wonder. Years had passed since he left his homeland. He had seen God's protection in battles, and God's provision through every season, but still, he had no child. One quiet evening, Abram stood beneath the vast desert sky, and then God spoke again. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abram replied, "Lord, what can you give me? I remain childless. Eliezer, my servant, will inherit everything." It wasn't anger, it was longing. Honest, human, aching hope. Then God said, "This man will not be your heir. A son coming from your own body will be your heir." He led Abram outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars if indeed you can count them. So shall your descendants be." And in that quiet moment, Abram believed. The Bible tells us, Abram believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. God didn't just make a promise, he made a covenant. God instructed Abram to prepare animals for a sacred ritual, a custom of that ancient world, to seal unbreakable agreements. Abram laid the pieces on the ground, and as the sun set, he fell into a deep, heavy sleep. In his dream, God revealed that Abram's descendants would become strangers in a foreign land, enslaved for 400 years, but then they would be rescued, freed, and returned to the land promised to him. And as the fire passed through the offering, God declared, "To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates." It was not just a promise of a son, it was a vision of a future. A people, a nation. But Sarai, Abram's wife, still had no child. She was growing older, and so was he. Would God really keep his word? Even faithful people wrestle with doubt. But God was not finished. One day, 3 strangers came to visit Abram. He welcomed them with kindness, fed them, washed their feet, and then one of them spoke. "Where is your wife?" Abram said. "She's in the tent." Then the visitor said, "About this time next year, your wife Sarai will have a son." Sarai overheard and laughed, not from joy, but from disbelief. "Will I now have this pleasure after I am old?" she thought. But the Lord said, "Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Even when faith is thin, God's power remains strong. He was building something greater, a people of promise, a legacy of faith, a line that would one day lead to a Savior. So the stars above remind us still that no promise from God ever fails. Even when it takes time, even when hope feels distant, He is faithful. He took him outside and said, "Look at the sky, so shall your offspring be." Genesis 15-5. Subscribe and join us for the next chapter. The miraculous birth of Isaac, the son of laughter and faith.